What's going on, guys? Today we're checking out the FiiO JT7 open back planar magnetic headphones, which retail for $120, which in itself is impressive that they're even able to come out with a planar magnetic headphone for that price. So JT Audio is FiiO's kind of budget brand. I haven't actually checked out any FiiO headphones before. I've read reviews and seen reviews about them. It seems like they're able to give you really good performance for a decent price. I think the FiiO FT1 Pro, which is like I guess a step up planar magnetic headphones from these, those are about $200, and they have kind of mixed reviews. It seems like the build quality is not the best on those. They have like a bass rattling issue, I believe. So I haven't checked out those. Then they have the FiiO FT1, which is a closed back, which has gotten rave reviews. People say it's like one of the best closed backs you can get, even for any price, doesn't matter. And that one's only like 150, 160 bucks. So I figured I would check these out, especially because I recently tried the Hifiman Edition XS, which I'm going to talk about later, but that was my first kind of introduction in a planar magnetic headphones. And then I saw that these were available at a really good price, and I'm always trying to find, you know, good price to performance ratio product. So I figured I'd check these out, and I think people are really gonna like these. At the price it's at, I mean, there really aren't that many headphones doing what this one can do at that price, but you know, it's not perfect, obviously. If it was, it would cost a lot more. So we'll talk about some of the cons that I have with this one. I really just feel like FiiO kind of hit a home run with the value on these. So in the box, you're getting a little velour type of fabric carrying pouch, which is quite nice. You're getting a 4.4 millimeter balanced cable, yes, right out of the box, which not every company does. Actually, none of the headphones I've tried so far in my quote-unquote audiophile journey actually comes with a balanced cable out of the box, so that's pretty cool. And then you get the standard 3.5 millimeter, and you also get the 6.35 millimeter adapter, which is in the box right now. These look really clean. It's an all plastic build, so don't get your hopes up in terms of these feeling premium. They definitely don't. They do feel maybe not necessarily cheap, but they feel what their price is. They feel $120, and it's because of the plastic. And I don't know if you guys have been able to hear that, but you're definitely getting like a little bit of creaking with these, which is kind of expected. And obviously, who's going to be doing this? But every time you pick it up, you will kind of feel the price. But the cups themselves are really nice. That driver looks beautiful in there. The ear pads themselves are actually pretty good. Like it's a nice foam. Not too hard, not too soft. The opening is just about big enough. I have relatively large ears, but I don't find this opening to be too small. It's actually kind of like the perfect size. You're getting like a sport fabric, so that you're not in contact only with leather, which would cause some sweaty ears. As you can tell, these do swivel and they actually fold, which is insane. I can't believe a planar magnetic headphone can fold. That is pretty cool. So this is kind of tailored towards someone who might want to take these on the go with them, and you definitely can. You have this being able to fold, and then you can just put it in the carrying bag like so, which is pretty cool. Up top, you have a little bit of padding. It's really not a lot, but as you can see, it's like a very dense material. So I'm going like all the way in, and it's taking forever to rebound back. Not bad. You can feel a little bit of pressure on top, but it's not too bad. Thankfully, they have like a little slit on top to relieve some of that pressure. And it's not too bad, but I do wish there was a little bit more foam here. As for the material itself, it's like a fabric, not the same type of fabric as the carrying pouch. It's a little bit coarser, but it's not bad. And then the headband, as you can see, I have it on just the top one, I think one below the top. So I do have a small head, but I don't have the smallest head. So if you have like a tiny head, I don't think these are gonna fit you at all. Like these are made for people with pretty big heads, I would say. Like look at that extension. And then I'm using them at literally one off the top. So these are definitely tailored more for bigger heads and less for people with smaller heads. The headband reminds me a lot of the Sennheiser HD490 Pro. It's almost like they copied it directly. because it is metal, and even these little notches, these little marks look exactly the same as the HD490 Pro from Sennheiser, and the clicks are kind of similar too. So in terms of comfort, I do find them comfortable. They have quite a bit of clamp force. I think it'll soften a little bit over time, but they do have a little bit of clamp force, which helps keep them secure on your head. It's not an annoyance really, like it's not a death clamp at all, but you do feel a little bit of pressure on the sides of your ears, and you feel a little bit of pressure on top because there's not a lot of padding. But I quite like these ear pads, and I like them for glasses as well. They're very compliant for glasses, and they don't really squeak a lot. So that's good. And I do find just the ear pads in general just comfortable, which is good. These weigh 318 grams, so they're not as heavy as normal planar magnetic headphones. Yet I think because of the design and because of this headband up here, I do feel the weight a little bit more than heavier headphones for whatever reason. I think most people will find these comfortable. I'm just a very nitpicky person when it comes to comfort, and nothing seems to fit me, but I think most people will find these quite comfortable. As for how easy they are to drive, they are not easy to drive at all, actually. Using it with the 3.5mm port on the KiwiEars Allegro Pro, I have to go almost all the way on the volume on these. But if you use the balanced cable, which comes in the box, which is nice, I'm using them at like 70%, 75% volume, which is pretty good, but they are quite hard to drive. Not like crazy hard to drive, but I don't think you're not gonna get enough with like a J-Cali JM16 Pro, I don't believe. You might be thinking they're $120, they can't sound that good, right? And no, you're wrong actually. They sound very good. I think most people will actually really enjoy these because it's a bit of a neutral type of listening experience where there really isn't like a specific frequency range that's overpowering any of the others. So starting with the bass, it's not a very impactful bass. You can feel it, but it's not like super overbearing, and there really isn't any sort of like mid-bass hump which would give warmth or an overly warm sound signature or overpower any of the other frequency ranges. You're really not getting that with these. The mids are quite good. They're quite neutral, I would say. And the treble is a little bit veiled in a way. It's really not too prominent, and you're not getting, which is actually good because you're not getting a fatiguing listening experience whatsoever. This is kind of a smooth listen. What I find interesting is that voices tend to have like a little bit of a graininess to them. So it's not the clearest sound signature, but it's just good. Everything sounds pretty good. Most genres sound good. You're not gonna be amazed by these, but you might be amazed because other $100 headphones, $120 headphones don't really sound as resolving as these, and the detail retrieval is quite good. The soundstage is okay. It's not amazing. You would maybe expect from a planar magnetic headphone, but I don't think you could come from a Hifiman planar magnetic and expect miracles from a $120 headphone. But I just think they're pleasant. They're pleasant to listen to, and I think you could just kind of zone out and chill out and listen to some of your favorite songs and just relax and have a nice listening experience, maybe while you're working or just hanging out, and I think they'll do well. I actually quite like them for gaming, in particular single-player narrative-driven games like Ghost of Yotei or Red Dead Redemption. I think these fare really well because you're getting kind of an expansive soundstage in games, and you can hear like little details of the environment, like the wind blowing or the leaves rustling or something like that. And these handle it really well, and because you're not really getting an overly treble focused experience, you can kind of just play everything. So you can play a racing game and you'll be good. You can play Battlefield 6 and you won't feel tired from gunshots or all the little particle effects, explosions and stuff like that. So I think they're kind of like a good do-it-all headphone. They're not amazing, and I do find myself kind of wanting a little bit more resolution, which is where I think the Hifiman Edition XS comes in. This is the biggest problem for the FiiO JT7. The Edition XS right now is $210. And I know that's basically a completely different price bracket because you're talking about 120 to 210. That's $90. That's a lot of money. The sound upgrade that you're getting from the Hifiman from the FiiO JT7, I think is worth that $90 because there's a level of resolution and clarity that is just, it's like leagues better than the JT7. And I don't think this is a fair comparison. Let me just say that right now. Because the Edition XS, when it came out, I think was $500. And it has its own problems. You know, the build quality is pretty terrible. I'll admit it. It's making noises that I absolutely hate. It's not comfortable unless you get the strap, which, yeah, that's another $25 probably. So I don't think it's a fair comparison. And I think if you're just trying to save as much money as possible and still get good sound quality, go for the JT7. But if you want kind of more of like a shock and awe type of experience with more songs, yeah, I would say just get the Edition XS for $210 and you're just gonna be a lot more pleased with the sound signature, in my opinion, at least. I'll have another video on the Edition XS because I think it's such a good deal at its current price, but it has, like I said, it has its own problems. I really don't like the build quality. It's super heavy, which is kind of mitigated by the strap, but that's another cost. And if you wear glasses, the pads are so squeaky, it's actually ridiculous. But after trying the Edition XS, I wanted to give the JT7 a try just because they're planar magnetic headphones, so I figured I would get kind of a similar sound experience. And I really didn't, but I think it's because the Hifiman's tuning is just much different than basically every other headphone, where vocals are so clear, and it's almost like the Edition XS is 4K and the FiiO JT7 is 1440p, for instance. That's kind of how I would describe it, where if you go from listening to the JT7 to the Edition XS, it's like you've unveiled the vocals. That's kind of what it sounds like. But on other songs, the JT7 can absolutely hold its own with the Edition XS, especially if you're listening to like EDM music or even electronic music. I would say the JT7 really does well. And if you're not comparing them one-to-one, I think you're actually going to be quite surprised with how nice the JT7 sounds, but the Edition XS is just a whole other beast. But like I said, I don't think it's fair. But for $210, I think it should be a consideration. Another thing about the Edition XS, it just has a way wider soundstage than the JT7 does. Not that the JT7 sounds closed off by any means. Its stage is wider than normal, you know, dynamic driver headphones. But yeah, I just couldn't get that comparison out of my head, especially because I've been testing them side by side. But the Edition XS is also like really treble forward, and it can be fatiguing and harsh at times, which is something that the JT7 does not struggle with. So in conclusion, I think this is a really good headphone for $120. It's not gonna wow you, but it's gonna get the job done. It's an everyday, daily driver type of headphone that's comfortable, that sounds good for music and gaming, comes with a carrying pouch, comes with a balance cable and a 3.5mm cable already, so you don't have to buy additional products. And it's just pretty good overall. And for the price, I don't think you're gonna find too many better options in the same price bracket. So if you guys have checked these out, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one.